our business model is even relevant anymore? Do you need to have a business model at all? So I have some panelists that I really admire some of their work. I'll let them all introduce themselves, but they are on stage joining us to discuss the failure of business models. Brianna, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Cassie. So we have here on the end David Weekley, who is the founder and chairman of PB Works, which has gone through a lot of twists and turns in terms of its business model. And in the middle is Peter Gardner, managing director of WavePoint Ventures, which invests in seed stage companies. And then Ethan Block, who is the founder and co-founder of Flowtown, which has also had a long and twisting road in terms of its business model and has recently been acquired by Demandforce. So my goal is to get to as many of your questions as possible. So just if you have a question at any point during this talk, just raise your hand as high as possible, and I think someone will run over and get you. But I wanted to start and make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what exactly a business model is. And I was talking to Ethan earlier, and he mentioned that it's more, in his mind, more than just the way that a company makes money. So Ethan, why don't you talk about what you consider a business model to be?
Sure. Before I do that, I just want to thank Cassie for putting this amazing event together and everyone helping her. This is one of my favorite events of the year. I went to the first one 2 years ago as an attendee, and so I'm super humbled to actually be here this year. And then I also want to see who wants to learn how to fail with your business model. We should be seeing everyone's hand. Amazing. Who wants to do that this afternoon as you're in your coma post-lunch? Well, you're in the right place. As Adriana said, I'm Ethan Block. I was one of the co-founders of Flowtown, and we built marketing tools for small businesses. We were just recently acquired about 2 weeks ago by a company by the name of Demandforce. And so your question was, is a business model just about, party app? No. Is a business model just about making money, or is it more than that?
That is the question. Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, so I'm of this belief. I don't know how many people are familiar with, Steve Blank and Eric Ries and Alexander Osterwalder, which is like the business model is like this puzzle you put together, and it's not just about making money. That's one piece of it. But you have to figure out what value are you going to deliver, how are you going to reach your customers, who are your customers, what are you going to sell them at what price, and then what are your costs? And when you net all that stuff out, do you have a successful business model or do you not? And the pieces that aren't successful are the pieces you keep trying to it's like the Apollo spaceship. You're trying to put a circle in a square and you're like, no, that's not going to work. Let's try this piece and this piece. And you keep working around that until you actually have a model that works. I mean, that's how we look at it. That's how we looked at it at Flowtown.
David, do you have anything to say about that in terms of your experience with PB Works?
Yeah, I think that the main pivot points for us happened when it became clear that the current movie that was playing, if we hit fast forward, would not end up anywhere plausibly good. And I think that's a pretty good point at which to change the plot, introduce a plot twist.
And what was that point, and how did you realize that things had reached it?
Oh, there have been a couple. One was we originally thought that the service, which is a hosted collaboration service, was going to be advertising supported. And we started getting increased traffic. We got lots of page views. I had Google AdSense there. We optimized it. And at the end of the month, we had $500. And I decided, well, it'd probably be prudent to run some napkin math and figure out how could we make this into a $100 million a year business? Like, how many people would need to be using my service to make this a big company? And the answer was pretty much every group on the planet would need to have internet access and be using us daily. And so I figured that's not a plausible movie to hit fast forward on. So maybe I ought to adjust models.
So in terms of adjusting models, Peter, you said that there's a difference between a pivot that's based on market demand and something that's just an example that you're floundering. How do you tell the difference as a VC?
Yeah, well, we're wrong frequently, first of all. But we invest at a seed stage in a team and a core technology. We have some assumptions going in about what we think the right target application is, but until we get out into the marketplace and really test it with customers, we don't know whether those assumptions are right or not. And when we go into the marketplace and find that, frankly, the folks we thought would care don't, we have a choice to make. We can either pivot and try to apply that technology or that solution to a different market or bail out. And not only is it difficult for a board of directors and kind of the relationship between the board and the entrepreneur, but it's a difficult dynamic inside of a partnership where you have a portfolio. There's different companies, frankly, competing for capital. And so not only do the board and the entrepreneurs need to convince themselves, but then each venture firm needs to be convinced, or a subset of those venture firms need to be convinced to keep funding that company. So we try to spend a lot of time with the entrepreneur along the way so we understand why the original market didn't pan out, understand the rationale behind the pivot. Sometimes we'll bring in an advisor or one of our other partners to kind of take a less emotional look at the situation and try to help the board member to figure out whether they've just gotten too close to it. And we try to invest in some deep intellectual property so that if we decide we do want to pivot, then we have an asset that we can take into the new market.
And I would add or argue that it's, in my experience and opinion, very dangerous to raise a shit ton of money before you've actually figured out your business model. Like, you can raise a seed round and you can have a few guys and girls, and you figure out your business model, and then it makes sense to go and raise a shit ton of money. There's a saying that, like, if you raise money, a lot of it, you don't know what you're going to spend it on. You've already sold your company, you just don't realize it. Because and when you have all this money and you're not like scrappy and trying to figure it out, you start to make different decisions that you just wouldn't